Good evening. My name is Terrence Hoy. Welcome to the Board of Fire Commissioners, Newcastle Fire District #1 regular meeting. Today is May 19th, 2022, and we're located at 491 King Street in Chapco, New York. We have 4 commissioners here. We have myself, Terrence Hoy, Ed Frank, Brian Murphy, and Chris Weddle. Dwight Smith is on an authorized absence for today's meeting, and he's joining us via Zoom. I will call the meeting to order at this time. Chief, please, if you would, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This moment of silence for your own intentions. Thank you. As I stated, we're all in attendance. I'd like to thank Carrie from the Newcastle Community Media Center, who provided us with all the equipment tonight. Our secretary Christine is running the meeting via Zoom, and she's recording it as well. Thank you very much for putting that together. Really appreciate it. Statement regarding public comments. There is no one from the public is here right now. We put public comment towards the end of the meeting. This way we can work through our business items. Correspondence, Secretary.
There is none.
And throughout the meeting, please check our general mailbox. Let us know if something pops up. Thank you. Chief's report.
Good evening, and I apologize for the length of it. I'm kind of new at putting it together myself. So under new business, I've appointed former Chief John Laders as a deputy. It'll help us out greatly having an extra experienced person in a chief role. We've had lengthy conversations with John about where he'll respond to, how he'll respond, and I think it's going to be very good for us. Further appointments of the chief staff will follow. We're working our way through what we really need and the best qualified people for it. The transition of the chief staff has gone very smoothly. We're still working out some kinks and kind of getting our feet under us, but all in all, it's gone quite well. Chief Maitland's been very helpful in any questions that I've had with how to do and have to do certain things. Under old business, the fitness equipment has been received. The assembly of the new and the disassembly of the old will occur after inspection cleanup. We just don't have enough bandwidth to take on that and clean all the apparatus. I have made the unilateral decision to hold off on Peloton for now. You had approved us purchasing a Peloton bike and the associated membership, but with the financial issues the Peloton company itself is having, I thought it was prudent to just kind of hold off and see how they come out of whatever issues they're facing before we buy something that can't be supported. In your packet, you've got the application for a new patrol member, a young junior at Harshview High School, Damian Lace. Very nice young man. He's actually been showing up and inspecting cleanup, getting to know everybody.
Do I need to sign this one and provide it to the secretary?
Yes, once you guys vote on accepting the application.
Okay.
That's the process.
Yes, after the vote first. Thank you.
The expenses, I delineated them. It's a little high this month because we have started with some of the expenses from inspection that I've written checks from the chief's account for. Other ones I've been working with Robin, sending to her directly so that we're not dealing with reimbursements and paying the vendors directly. April alarms, we have 41, they're attached. Future dates, one that I missed is the most important. This Saturday is our annual inspection and installation of officers. Starting at 5 p.m. and then the actual services begin at 6. As we discussed prior to this meeting, I will send you the script and the sequence of events. If not tonight, definitely tomorrow. Memorial Day, we start with a light breakfast here at the firehouse at 9 a.m. We gather outside at the memorial. Someone from the commissioners usually reads off the deceased members of the commissioner staff. Each of the companies will then read off their deceased members, and then we will march as one group with Millwood. Typically, we're towards the back end of the parade. We've discussed with the town administrators, all the chief of police. If there is an alarm, they'll do crowd control to one side of the road so we have the others to respond appropriately. Pleasantville Fire Parade is on June 3rd. Mount Kisco Parade is on July 8th. Those are the two parades that the department voted to march in this year. Respectfully submitted. One.
Any questions or discussion for the chief?
I missed the date of the Mount Kisco parade. Was that the 8th, Chief?
July 8th.
July 8th. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Copy of the application.
Oh, I have one here.
With respect to the membership, we, have we filled out the insurance forms, the LoSAP?
No, yeah, actually, he's not a member. You have to vote him in first.
But that will happen?
Yeah, because I believe the way that we're doing it, Robin or Christine reach out to them with the appropriate forms that need execution. If that needs to change, it comes to me.
No, that's fine.
Just
I'm
let
just
me
having
know.
trouble finding old forms. Do we know if her parents are married or divorced?
His parents, nothing was said. He actually came to the Recruit New York event that Sunday with his mother. So we had a very lengthy conversation about the fire service and the fire department in general. Nothing was indicated and wasn't really something I would normally ask.
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering if they are not together, whether or not there would be an objection from the other parent. It's occupational hazard is coming up now.
That's actually,
Because they're under 18, both
Yeah,
parents
that-
should authorize participation.
that is a great observation.
Very
So,
good.
rather than talk about one's marital status, can we just push this back to the chief?
No, I would vote to approve the membership this time, but something to keep in mind going forward.
Fair enough.
Could that be possibly something you speak with Michael about?
Yes.
The background. and
That's a
add
good
that
point.
Wording to that.
We
I
can
can
put it on
provide
one
you
form.
with a form that authorizes both parents, or there's a box that says that one parent is authorized to do it for
Perfect.
whatever the reasons are.
Excellent. Good observation. Thank you, Chief. Chris, excuse me.
Everybody.
So I have a motion on the floor.
Second this
Can
motion.
I ask a question?
Yes, question?
Is there any action that needs to be taken for the appointment of a deputy chief?
That's at the discretion of,
No.
no?
Has to approve it.
So what's your pleasure then?
I make a motion to approve it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll
All
second.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so that's
Aye.
5 in favor of appointment of Deputy Chief John Maduris. Okay, okay.
I still have a motion on the floor.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
motion, second. and now we
All in
can
favor, that was
favor.
5. That
Members.
was for the Deputy Assistant Chief John Maduris. There is a motion on the table.
I second it.
Yeah, that
all-
he seconds that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was for the membership, Dwight.
Yep.
Okay, that was 5.
I make a motion, we approve the chief's expenses, reimburse the chief's office in the amount of $1,545.55.
We have a
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dwight. This is for your signature, Madam Secretary. And we're still trying to locate the seal or produce a seal. Do we actually need one under the law?
No, we do not.
No, I-
It should be one in the drawing.
Yeah,
So-
we just,
It's
it's,
in front of
yeah, we've been looking for it.
it's in the box, it's in the note box.
Anything else on the inspection?
No, it's just been kind of frantic, so I'm just trying to get everything all squared away, but
Alrighty,
the department's been working like crazy for the last 4 weeks, scrubbing, washing everything. You know, that's the only thing that comes out of this, is that everything is cleaner than it's been in a couple of years because of not having inspection, and it was definitely.
the place does look good. Ryan did a great job getting the place painted up, and I know that the entire department's been working tirelessly now for the past month or so. So great job, Chief. You're free to go or free to stay, whatever your pleasure is. I know you're busy tonight. I know you got the whole
Yeah,
crew
no,
here.
if that's great, then I'll, yes.
Yeah, if we could go out of order,
Sure.
I understand
Yeah.
that Greg Lang's truck is coming up for approval tonight, is that right?
I thought it was approved a couple of meetings ago.
It was. We can go out of order on this because just in case you got to run. Dwight, what's the status? No, first of all, Madam Secretary, we did vote to purchase.
You did.
We did.
Where are we at right now in the chief's truck, Dwight?
The chief's vehicle, the Tahoe, is on a train. Last I spoke to the sales guy Monday or Tuesday morning, and it should be here in the next day or so, or early next week, according to him. So my big agenda item, I'll bring up now or later, your choice, but I think we need to decide how we're going to get it here. I'll let that go until later, or we can talk about it now, your choice.
Let's do it now since the chief is here.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead, Dwight.
the question is, initially I was thinking, let's save $750 because that's what he wants to charge us to deliver the vehicle to us from Albany. A 2-hour drive is, it seems $750 initially my thought was that it was a lot of money and we'd go and get it and bring it back. After rethinking this and talking with a few people, I'm thinking, you know, if something happened to the vehicle, God forbid we got into an accident, something happens, it's on us. And that opens up the district to unnecessary liability, in my opinion. So I'd like to vote, I'd like to get a motion to allow us to pay for the proposed $750 fee to have the vehicle delivered to us at their, you know, under their umbrella, their insurance.
Question, Dwight, it's not coming to us, right? It's going to whoever's doing the striping and the installation of the lights and the radios and all that sort of thing, right?
Well, it will probably end up sitting in Center Street Bay for a day or two or a week until he's ready for it. Remember, the supply chain is tenuous at best, and he's ordering things. So when they come in and everything's ready, then I suspect he will say, okay, bring it down. And he's got other vehicles ahead of us too.
So he can't store it.
No, his shop is extremely
It's a small shop.
One and a half bay at best.
Yeah,
Alright.
about 1.5 bay, right?
And have we actually written the check? Have we purchased it?
No, we have not.
Okay, and when we get it, will it be registered or whatever the equivalent is?
We will have to register it as a, you know, like the other chief's cars. Once it
Okay,
gets here.
let's just, I mean, I'm not too worried about liability as long as we have insurance on it, but I think it's hard to insure a vehicle that we own but can't drive.
Well, my thought was we'd probably have temporary plates or something like that and insure it once he says it's on the lot, if we were going to go get it. My feeling is it's better to let him drive it under his policies, whatever, and the burden of delivery is on him in a safe manner. And once it gets here, if we approve it, if we accept it, if it meets our standards, then we'll cut him a check.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table right now. Do we have a second for that motion?
Well, we can discuss it too.
Deliver.
Second.
We got a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll
And
let him know first thing in the morning.
hey, did you vote aye on that as well?
Yes, sir, I
Okay.
did.
It's fine. Yes,
So
chief.
just a quick question. I mean, when you buy a vehicle at a dealership, one of the things that they do for you is register it and inspect it as well. So I think we might be getting too far ahead. I wouldn't be surprised and probably check with Tony how it's done in the past, but when the
Yeah.
vehicles traditionally were brought here, they were delivered by the dealer with plates on it and they were registered.
Ready to go.
So
Well, Tony's did.
Did you mean the inspection by the fire department to make sure it?
no,
No,
the state
DMV.
motor vehicle inspection.
Safety inspection. Hey, Dwight,
Because won't you do that?
Dwight, just 1 second, Ron. Can you ask the dealer if they can put temporary 30-day plates and get it notionally inspected before they bring it down here?
I will find out the status of what the plan is, yes, and I'll let them
Okay.
know tomorrow.
Okay, all righty. Thank you.
And I gotta just say one little quick thing here. I appreciate your voting on this. This is the first vehicle that looks like we're actually getting. So I'm kind of new at this and I'm kind of feeling my way through it. So I appreciate your indulgence and letting me muddle our way through here. Thank you.
You're doing a great job, Dwight. Thank you.
Supply
for
chain
all
is
the
really
work.
kicking us in the tail.
But Dwight, my question would be, as treasurer, are they expecting a check on delivery after you have inspected it and made sure that it is what you've ordered?
I will inquire about that too. I thought we had the 30-day thing, but I'll find out what his plan is, what he wants. Sure, I'll ask. I'll call him first thing in the morning.
Thank you.
Okay, and that will be Dwight and the chief inspecting?
Well, we'll,
Or let Chief Lang says.
yeah, Chief Lang.
Fair enough, fair enough. Perfect.
And we'll probably lock the keys up. We don't want anybody driving it around until it's ready to be used by Chief Lang.
Okay, anything further for the chief? Because I think the chief would like to go.
Thank you.
Yep.
By the way, the playlist outside, it's your daughter's.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
The favorite word.
Treasurer's report.
I submitted a check register. Excuse me, I need glasses for $75,034.91. Check detail included. I received the tax checks from both towns and total amount of $1,495,11.28. And that has been deposited this morning. I also submitted a profit and loss or budget versus actual report for you to look at, and just note that repair and maintenance in buildings is at 90%. So we will probably, maybe at our next meeting, need to do some transfers into that account.
But there's a significant outlay in lawn due maintenance with respect to painting. That's a one-time expense, right?
Yes, we chose
Yeah.
not to,
And that came out of buildings, not out of operating. So,
Right.
okay.
came out of building, not the reserve, right, came out of operating.
The 4 questions I had about the treasurer's report have been answered. We make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second on that
I'll
motion?
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That's 5 to accept the report. Thank you very much, Robin. Secretary's report.
So today I attended a webinar on the open meetings law regarding video conferencing and where it is headed in New York State. The current guidelines expire June 14th, so we will have to stay tuned for future updates. And again, I apologize for not getting the agenda and minutes out, but I had no computer. And this may need to go back to Dell to be repaired if it doesn't correct itself.
Since we're on that topic, did you speak with our IT professional and we're working through that problem?
Yes, I was on the phone with him last night and he said that it is doing something internally, and if it does it one more time, he's going to have to take it to Dell because it shouldn't be doing what it's doing. It's
Okay,
disconnecting me from the ability to get into email, internet, anything.
and you
So,
did indicate him that it's a serious issue. It's becoming a serious
yes,
problem
I
in
think
terms
he
of us
was-
getting
yeah.
the work done.
And he
Okay,
was
good.
very responsive
Yeah.
last night, I have to say.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, and then we also have approval of minutes from the regular meeting minutes of April 21st. Everyone should have a copy of those.
I have 2 changes.
Yes. Here.
I had suggested, instead of saying we donated old turnout gear to Ukraine, that we say we donated used turnout gear to
That's
Ukraine.
much softer.
And also under attendance at the planning board meeting, under town liaison, I did not attend, so I suggested saying Commissioner Hoy attended the planning board meeting.
Thank
Those are
you.
my only 2 changes.
And you conveyed those already? Okay, thank you. So I'll entertain motion on that.
I approve. I make a motion to approve.
I'll
the
second.
meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Christine, for a lot of hard work you do each week and throughout the month. Committee reports. We had a whole lot of purchasing with respect to the upcoming inspection. Myself and Commissioner Murphy took care of a lot of that during the last couple of weeks. Few uniform items, as you can see in the chief's report, nothing on medical and physicals. With respect to projects, there's 2 projects, and I'll yield to Ed Frank here in a moment. But I just wanted to give the residents and this board an update with respect to our community liaison committee. First of all, I did thank them for their diligent work recently. We had a meeting, I think it was last week, was it? And I conveyed to everyone that the board greatly appreciates their diligence. And they have provided us with almost 100 questions. We had some other questions left over from a previous round of questions and answers. But the one thing regarding the questions I wanted to discuss, and I chatted with Commissioner Murphy and Commissioner Weddle about this as well. We have so many questions now that need some level of answering, if you will, that I suggest that we put them into buckets. And the buckets could be perhaps questions that need to be answered by the fire department, questions that need to be answered by our attorneys, questions that need to be answered by the architect, and then perhaps questions that need to be answered by the board. So I just wanted to make that suggestion, and then with the approval of the board, I can start putting these questions in these buckets with the secretary and organizing these questions, and also shortening the questions, because we want to turn every single question into a frequently answered question, or eliminating the question if it's duplicating a previous question, or if it's a question that has nothing to do with the project, then maybe the board would have to consider even whether or not we're going to answer that question. So it's going to take a lot of work, and I just want to see what the board thinks about doing that, dividing up those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we thought that was a very good idea.
Got no problem dividing them up. I mean, so we got to get them answered and get it done with. I mean, because it's every time you turn around, they're asking questions.
And this is what they were charged with doing. But I think we're at a point now where we have over 100 questions. Some are germane, others may not be. But for the most part, we have to respect the committee. They've asked the questions, and we need to consider those questions. With the board's permission, this is work that I think myself and the secretary can start. Anything on that?
No.
Thank you for your input on it, by the way. It was very helpful, actually.
Could I go back to purchasing?
Absolutely.
There was a question about purchasing orders, which have been generated by the chief staff without oversight or approved by the board. I don't know when that started. I know that once upon a time, purchasing orders were generated by the chief staff, but they had to be signed off by the board member in charge of a particular committee at issue. I don't know when that fell by the wayside, but I don't think that we should be committing ourselves to purchasing things that nobody sitting at this table has said, okay.
I agree. And I think that we've been having this conversation for at least the last 5 months now.
And I'm not suggesting that the board needs to sit on every purchasing order, but if somebody needs to buy a hose reel, Brian should sign off on it. You know, if somebody needs to buy a tire, Dwight should sign off on it. If someone has to buy a insurance policy, I should sign off on it. But I mean, I think we're skipping an important step, which is filtering it through the body that is charged with protecting the public fiscal. That's all.
We're in agreement on that. And I think we've made improvements in the last 30 days.
Well,
Yes,
Right.
Robin.
So as we stand right now, I am generating the purchase order. If whoever asks me for one and they give me the invoice or the written request, I will generate the purchase order,
Whether it come from this table or somewhere else.
whether it comes from here or the chief, and then it will go to whomever is responsible for that unit to sign off on, whether it's Terry, Brian, yourself, or Ed.
Okay.
And by the way, in the absence of a commissioner who may have a responsibility over that committee, an email will suffice, and another commissioner, of course, can sign for it.
And then I'm the one faxing, scanning, emailing that purchase order to the vendor.
Robin, can we get Christine, can we get the electronic purchasing policy from the manual, and we'll compare it to whatever we have now? And can we start building that purchasing
So if I
policy?
distributed that, I can redistribute
I
that.
think you probably did before, yes.
I can take a look and.
Because we can
redistribute it.
just take a close look at that and make sure that we're in compliance with our own policy. I believe we are, but Chris is making a great point. And we have noticed some irregularities over time, and we're continuing to improve on those. So
Our purchasing policy governs procedure. I didn't know that. I thought it gave us thresholds,
Yeah.
at which point we needed verbal bids or whatever, but it doesn't govern procedure.
No.
Hmm.
Certainly add it to that.
Yeah, I think that's what we're suggesting. If we, that we need to codify, if you will, how we're doing things and how they should be done.
Yes, and then the chief does bring to you things that he would like to purchase in his monthly report, and you approve them, and then a purchase order will be generated for that. So there is that request of the board before the chief will purchase anything outside of what he's budgeted for.
And which is fine. An email request, if it's urgent, of course. But yes, all good observations, and we've made incremental improvements over time. I have nothing else on the CLC other than there was discussion regarding the next CLC meeting. That meeting will take place in the future once we get a handle on all of the questions. And having said that, I'll turn it over to Ed for technology engineering and the projects that you're working on.
Okay, so a few things. The dumpster that Oak Lane has on our property is being moved sometime next week. When Weinig took care of that for us. Good news from the town engineer. Things are looking very good with the site plan, so that's a plus. The Masonry project, I'm meeting with the project manager sometime next week to go over the details. So that's the status of that.
Excellent. Anything else, Ed?
I believe that's it.
Thank you. Brian, house.
Shortly after everything was nicely painted, cleaned up, in front of the engine up here, the bay window,
144.
no, 146, the windows get broke somehow. So that's been fixed and replaced. It only took a couple of days. All the painting in the building is done. All the landscaping is done. And then I looked into Center Street. One was to get it painted. And I talked to Bruce, because he's the gentleman that painted here. And he gave me a price to paint the doors, the bay, the bathrooms, the hallway, and the rooms upstairs of $18,000. But he will sit down and we're to decide what I actually want done. So he could change the price. Because he said it is lower. In other words, if I just do the bay and the doors and everything gets knocked off, he just gives me a price for just doing the room and the doors.
When you say the door, you mean the bay doors?
Yeah, bay doors. Because they tried to pressure wash them. And I don't, it's like a grease mark going down the center. And I don't know whether it's from the chain or what it's from, but they can't get it out. And the doors have never been painted. The bay, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's the same color it was when I joined. That's 50 years ago. It never changed the color. So, but I'm looking at doing the inside and building, not as heavy as I did up here, but just to clean it up and make it look nice. Because it does bother me a little bit to see the way it looks. And the ramp out front, cement, well, that's all broken, all cracked, all uneven, with potholes in it and everything. So I asked Peter Sisto for a price, just to give me an idea what I'm doing and what it would cost. And that's roughly $48,000 just to replace the ramps.
Wow,
48,000?
No, that's the cement.
wow.
That's replace it with cement.
My next suggestion.
Yeah.
I mean, I would pull the membership to some extent and the chief staff, but I think the amount of time they're spent in the lower bays is minimal. I think painting the outside of the bay doors, so it's aesthetically pleasing to the community, makes a lot of sense. Maybe even the hallways, bathrooms, parts of the fitness center for the people that use it. But I think my opinion would be, I mean, the apron needs help.
Big time.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I wonder if there's a way to patch it. I don't know.
I
But
did ask him, and he's the only way really to do it. You should take all the cement out
sort of,
and you put 3 inches of blacktop.
I won't,
That ain't gonna last.
yeah, no,
that-
blacktop,
Because
we need concrete, right?
that is the most popular spot to turn around.
For everybody.
Because all you have to do is a U-turn, and that's it.
From Bell School. to community
Over a
center,
period of time with the blacktop, that'd be gone. The best thing would be with cement.
Can they patch it and then skim like an inch on top of it? We don't need a smooth exit out of the bays.
No, it's that bad.
it is shot. If I,
It's so uneven in places, and the cracks are so.
if I could add, in support of what you're saying, I inspected it several times myself. It's quite hazardous, and we need to address it. I'm just a little surprised at the cost. I did not think it would be that much. And in addition to not only doing the apron and repairing all the concrete, making sure that the concrete's in accordance with the spec that it should be, we also need to do some blacktop work as well, because some members of the community do use that area, and it's fairly hazardous for those members walking in and around that area. So, it's entirely up to the board, but I think we need to do something to improve that. And whether it's a total replacement, it seemingly that's what we may be looking at here. So it's up to the board. Yes.
So we would have to go out to bid. And since we don't have any building maintenance funds, we'd have to have a
Right.
permissive referendum to use our reserve.
And perhaps if we go out to bid and we have a fairly robust specification, that could drive the price down. Then again, it could drive it up as well. So the board will need to make a decision. May I suggest that all the board members get down there and get eyeballs on it if you haven't done it already?
I was there tonight.
Then there's the cleaning.
Can we stay on this? Let's just stay on the concrete thing for a second. What does the board think we should do at this point then?
I'm not prepared to make a motion.
Okay, I don't disagree with that. I think we need to, sit on it another month and consider it throughout the month?
Sit on the Lord's, well, I don't, I'm just bringing it out to you. It's the work that's got to be done. One thing you have to take in consideration, we're not getting rid of the building right away. So, I mean, you got to do some work.
We
have to
do.
maintain it. So
I agree. Ed, have you seen it?
I recall, I haven't been there recently, but I recall, from what I remember, it's not in good condition.
Yeah. Can you just take a
I
look
will
at
take
it?
another
Thank you.
look.
And then Dwight, when you're available, can you take a look at it as well? And then
Absolutely.
we'll revisit this then next month. Is that fair enough?
yeah.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Okay. I got 2 bids for the cleaning, maintenance of the building weekly. I got one from Superior Building Maintenance. And what it consists of is just weekly cleaning other kitchen and membership room, the hallways, the bathrooms. That's the weekly thing. And then there's the once a month thing. It's like our room, the radio room, the big room, and the rest of everything else. With that, Superior was
940.
940. Yeah, there is
They
940.
did also supply references and insurance. I did not print those out, but I can share them.
Yeah. Then I got Arco, was the other one. So I showed him the other day and he explained to me, because I asked him about once a year window cleaning. He told me that's included in the monthly thing.
Not Alvarez?
No.
What are we paying Alvarez now?
Not sure what we were paying.
600, you said?
Oh, 600, yeah, 5 here and 1 at Center Street.
A month.
Mhm.
These prices take care of both buildings.
And it hasn't changed in many years.
And Arco was
Well, it's,
980.
wait. Superior Building doesn't say both houses.
I told him exactly what I had.
You can get a clarification from them.
Yeah, if we can.
Yeah, so that may just be here.
It wasn't. the bid spec.
That's $940 a week, but they have no monthly services. Arco is, I'm sorry,
$940 a month.
$940 a month, but they have no monthly services. Arco is $980 a month, another $40. They do have monthly and annual services, including window cleaning and doing the floors and other vacuuming and doing the chief's office, library, the stairways. I don't see the third one, and I'd be curious as to what Alvarez is doing. Arco we had for over a decade. They did a good job. They were upset when we left to Alvarez. And I think there were some issues with Alvarez. I don't know if they've been fixed.
There has been issues with Alvarez.
Yeah, I mean, Arco was upset when we switched. They actually called and said you didn't give us a chance to bid on it. But we were upset with them. So I don't know. Do we need to vote on this tonight?
Well, I like to get the place started. I mean,
What do you
Alvarez
propose?
is still coming every now and then, but I mean,
When does he terminate?
when we terminate it,
It's not an annual contract. It's month to month.
I had one with
I'd say give him 60 days and sign up Arco.
Mike Labori gave a letter to terminate service with Alvarez.
It's already been done.
No, we haven't
No.
issued it, but he gave
What-
a draft.
we give him 30, we give him 60, what do we give him?
If I can have a moment, what are you proposing?
Terminating the current cleaning service, which is Alvarez,
I would go with Orco.
and going with Arco, which is one of our,
He left it blank with the date.
we're in the middle of the month, I'd give him 45 days. Terminate it as of, July 1st. We give it to Arco.
Yeah, it would be 45 days. By July 1st.
So you want to roll that up into a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that give Alvarez a 45-day notice and we hire Arco Clean Maintenance.
Do we have a second on it?
Second.
Any further discussion on this matter? All in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Thank you for all the hard work on that, both Brian and Christine. We've been working on it actually for several months, and our attorney's been involved. We have a letter ready to go. Thank you very much for all that hard work. Anything else there, Brian?
Thing. And then window. No, that's it.
All righty, thank you. Dwight, you're up.
Okay. As we were discussing a few minutes ago, the proposal for the installation and purchase and installation of the command center, which is a box that fits into the back of the new Tahoe for the chief's vehicle. I have sent him, the proposed vendor, a note asking for clarification on the monies we've already sent him for the light bar that we ended up not using on a vehicle we ended up not buying, and reusing that light bar and electronics on the vehicle that we will be ending up getting this week or next week or something like that. So I CC'd the treasurer, and so hopefully when he has a chance to read it, he'll get back to us on clarification of the monies. So we have a clear delineation of what monies we've paid and what monies he will expect once we go with him as a vendor. Did you see that, Robin? Did you have a chance to read that?
I did see it. Thank you. And
Okay,
I
when you
we
get,
need that total value too, Chris, when we insure the car, right?
Yeah.
okay, so unless anybody has any question, I'm gonna move on just real quick here.
Well, just real quick on the chief's car, you've got the specs that the chief wants, right?
Yes, the chief looked it over and they were pleased with that.
And so the command box and all that, the radios, the iPad as opposed to the hard tablet and whatnot, we're all good with that, right?
Yes, they actually picked out all that stuff. I had Greg Lang go down to this guy in Hawthorne, and they spec'd it out, and with Paul's approval, they got a spec to me just yesterday, and that's what I sent you folks in email either this morning or last night, I forget.
We don't need a motion for that, do we?
I think we just need clarification on the monies that's going to be expended once we end up buying it.
We don't have to approve the specs. Specs are fine with you, they're fine with us, right?
I believe so, yeah. And the chief was okay with it.
Dwight, Chief Lang just walked in the room.
Okay,
I can address Dwight's question to Stefan about the cost of the light bar. You'll notice that item number 1 is the Wheelan 4 LED light bar with a cost of 0. That reflects the fact that the district already paid for it. It's sitting in his shop. He will install it, but the line item cost is 0. So that's how that is addressed. Does that
Right,
answer the question?
So I will need that on here because
It is there. It's there as a 0 cost
I
item.
would need the true cost. Because we're gonna call this a fixed asset, we're gonna insure something.
Oh,
and
okay,
so,
that's-
so we need to, you're asking, Robin, what we spent on it already.
But one at a time, please.
Why not?
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, the light bar plus the command center plus whatever else we put in it will be added to the cost of the vehicle, and that'll be the fixed cost, right?
It's usually in
Well,
the.
no, because this contract does not include what the cost of that item is. It says its cost is 0.
Oh, no, I meant for insurance purposes, not for that, not for the contract.
Presumably, the district already has that information because you paid him for it.
Yes, we did.
If you looked in your records,
Right, but this does not show the true cost of this new vehicle for us. That was for utility and it's sitting on hold in a fixed asset. So, and there was more than just a light bar. There was quite a bit. I mean, I'll show you the other contract that we had with them.
oh,
But
okay.
why not just add what we've already paid to the cost of the vehicle, and that'll be the actual cost of this particular vehicle?
Because I don't know that what we've already paid is actually being used on this vehicle.
Okay, Dwight, do you know if everything that's been,
Just 1 second. We've gone over this issue several times. Dwight, can you please get with the treasurer and Chief Lang and square this away? I can sense a little frustration here because we have gone over this several times. No one's fault. It's just that it's been an issue now for several months, and we may just need to circle back on this and get the information.
Understood, will do.
Thank you.
I will-
Anything else on that?
You want to see the box? Chris, you want to see the box?
no, it's it. Yeah. Interesting, like the vertical.
All right, so we're going to circle back. Chief Lang, Robin, and Dwight, and we'll get all the numbers. Yeah, anything else on that? We had confusion with this last year, if you remember. So we just need to make sure every dollar is accounted for. And thank you for bringing that to our attention again, Robin. Yeah, Dwight, anything else?
Yes, a couple of quick things. One of the panel gauges on engine 146 had sprung a leak. We had Russ Kahn, our service vendor, come over. He found out that it wasn't a gauge. It was just a hose that had popped off. He put the hose back on, tested the engine. Everything is fine now. Engine 243 was being driven through the center of town and it stalled. Commissioner Murphy and I discussed, and he was able to get a tow truck to tow the thing back into our bays for us. and the battery apparently is dead. It was about 8 years old, plus or minus, and I'm not sure, in my opinion, it could have been the charger at fault, or it could have just been premature failure of the battery, but it's not being used heavily, so I think we need to have periodic maintenance done on it, like just check the water levels in the battery, and I think we'll be good to go. The battery was replaced, the truck is ready and serviceable, and it's ready for parades and inspection now.
But we replaced it, I mean, 8 years, it doesn't really owe us anything, right?
Yeah. hey,
Yes.
here's one.
It's a long time, but it just sits there generally. So, it's a big battery, and sometimes you think that it might last a little longer, but it doesn't get a lot of use. So it failed. So it's fixed and ready to go.
So the Mac is back in service?
Yes, sir. Yes,
To
sir.
that.
Two more things. The Rescue 23, it's got an additive to the diesel fuel called DEF, Delta Echo Foxtrot. And the reservoir that contains the DEF has a sensor to say that it's full or empty or getting near empty. That sensor is on back order now for pushing a year on that truck. I called and left a message today with the company. They didn't get back to me, but my assumption is when it's available, they will let us know and we'll get that sensor replaced. So it's an open issue right now and no end in sight.
The reservoir was on back order too. Or is
No,
that-
no, it's well, maybe you're thinking of the radiator. The radiator had a leak.
Yeah, it was reservoir.
Well, right now, the only thing that we have a problem with is the sensor for the level of the DEF in the reservoir.
Do they check that level twice?
Periodically, the drivers do.
Anything else, Dwight?
I just have one comment that the 6 new Fireground radios are in, they're programmed. I expected a call from them. The Motorola two-way shop in Elmsford, I expected a call from them today to say, come get them. They didn't do that, but they're programmed and ready to go. We cannot install them in engine 144 until we get the single pocket chargers. They are unique to that radio. The existing radios will not, the new radios will not fit in the existing pockets. So we have to wait for those pockets to show up, and it's again a supply chain issue. So when they come in, we'll be good to go with that. And I bought 6 batteries for the old radios, so we'll keep them working until the new radios are fully distributed among all the trucks. And I have really nothing further.
Dwight, just look at the minutes from the April meeting. It said there was a gauge on 146 that had to be repaired, and then it says the reservoir is on back order. Am I getting that wrong with it? Am I confusing that with a different piece of apparatus?
I think maybe there was a typo or something, because the sensor for the reservoir is the thing we're waiting for, not the reservoir itself.
So the sensor for the gauge is on back order.
No, there's 2 separate things. We don't have a sensor on 146 that we're waiting for. We have a sensor on a reservoir on the Rescue we're waiting for.
The Rescue, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Christine,
Do we need, yeah, we need to make a
to
change.
clear that up.
Reservoir is
The reservoir is on
back
the
order is
Rescue.
for the rescue.
The reservoir and the sensor on the Rescue. All right,
Sensor on
thanks,
the
Dwight.
reservoir and the Rescue. Yeah,
Thanks, Dwight.
thank you, Chris. Thank you. I have nothing further, sir.
Bye, Chris. Thank you. All right, good job, Dwight. We'll see you soon. Chris, insurance and finance?
Insurance, there were some questions about whether we needed coverage, either cancellation coverage or excess coverage for the inspection, which is being held on site. We have the proof of insurance from 10 companies. No one will write us cancellation insurance based on a pandemic or infectious disease, so there's no point in trying for that. And we have $40 million in insurance. We have more than enough for that. There was another question. The chief sent an email regarding an offer from the property owners to use the Bedford Valley House for training up at the Old Reader's Digest. The question was whether we need separate insurance for that event. We're covered by BFIS, but I will get a certificate of insurance adding the property owners there as an added insured. And I've asked the chief to advise any neighboring departments that we invite to do the same, because they probably, I would assume they'll require it. Finance, I have nothing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, just a question, please. Do they plan to light a fire in that house to?
Well, burn.
I don't,
believe so.
I don't ask this question.
Oh, I was just curious.
We've had them before donated to us, you know, all you're doing is just like simulate it. But basically, when you break the walls down,
Opening
you
up
pop
walls.
windows, doors, cut the ceiling open, the roof open too for ventilation. You just practice that way.
Oh, okay.
I do believe the chief indicated would be no fire because the permitting is so restrictive.
Yeah.
And so it sounds to me like you'll do
I mean,
a partial
that's
demo
what
on
we've
that.
done that's how we've done them in the past.
Yeah, I don't think they do any live burns except for the training center.
That's it.
Makes sense to me.
I wonder if I can make one quick comment.
Sure.
The department has a smoke generator. I don't know if it's still used, but we do have a generator. If we wanted to make smoke, it's non-hazardous and we can simulate a smoky environment with that. The other thing that is done periodically is we use either wax paper or a elasticized black fabric that goes over the Scott air packs so that the wearer of the air pack can't see. And that also is a good simulation of a real fire issue. So if they wanted to simulate fire, they can do those two things without actually having live fire at that house.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Chris and I are back up compliance and policy review. I have nothing to report this month. Town liaison, nothing to report other than we will be seeing some town representatives here over the next couple of weeks. I did run into several members of the current town board at the Millwood inspection, which was fantastic, by the way. Big hat tip to our partner department and fire district in Millwood. They did a fine job. And presumably we'll see some more town officials here this coming Saturday at the Chapel Fire Department inspection. Look forward to seeing them again. They're very, very close partners in a lot that we do. Legal contract review, I just want to state that it was approximately probably 17 months ago that our attorney, Michael Lagori from Hogan Rossi, advised us to start going through our contracts and start to look at our policies and our procedures. And we've done a fantastic job over the last year and a half or so with that. And our attorney, Michael Lagori, is engaged with us on all matters regarding most matters, I should say, regarding contract and legal review. And we greatly appreciate his assistance in that regard. All commissioners,
Question.
yes, please.
Policies review.
Yes,
I brought up about no doors in the firehouse.
That's on
Or
new-
in the vehicles.
yep, that's on new business.
Okay.
Yep, it's coming up. We can discuss that.
Don't pause.
Say again?
Don't pause.
Okay, thank you. All right, so a couple of issues on old business. Any observations or complaints regarding the public address system or what's also referred to as the siren? Okay, and this board will only be monitoring that issue. And we'll leave that issue up to the chief, as that's clearly a firematic issue. We'll skip B, the policy review on investment, procurement, purchasing and vehicles, because we did touch on those. Although I will ask one more time that if we bring up a policy that we're contemplating on writing, can we immediately get the electronic copy sent out? I know we've done it in the past, but we sometimes get busy and then the policy gets kind of lost in our inbox. So
I'll send out all of those from the,
okay, thank you. And then we'll figure out how to divide them up. Website discussion, we're going to keep that in old business. I think that maybe after this weekend, we can spend a little more time. Okay. Masonry project status, we already discussed that. Thank you. Oak Lane dumpster status. Essentially, just for the sake of the residents, we have a wonderful neighbor here on Oak Lane, and we found that there was just a little incursion, if you will, and we've sent them a letter asking our neighbor to move their dumpster, and we hope that they fall into compliance here in the near future. And we greatly appreciate their understanding regarding that. And the chief's truck update, we went over that, right, Dwight? I'll take
Sorry
that
about
as a-
that. I had to find the unmute button. Yes, sir.
That's fine. Commissioner Weddle stepped out as we're entering into some discussions here. Let me see. We talked about the cleaning service RFP already.
In Center Street.
We talked about Center Street.
Yep.
Would you like to start off with D? Discussion on pet policy, vehicles and facilities.
Yes, I brought up in the past that the dogs and dogs in the cars and stuff, and the car becomes a mess. But we also have members that are allergic to dogs. So theoretically, we really shouldn't allow them in cars. So we have to get that member in the car to go somewhere real in a hurry or something, and they're allergic to the dog hair and everything. That's really not good. As far as the facility goes, we had an incident here one night to where dog come charging out of the room, barking at the ground, and one of our guests almost fell over. Which almost got knocked over because she was falling over. And I don't believe, we had a policy at one time, no pets in the firehouse and stuff. I know, I will bring this up so it doesn't get brought up. Yes, my father had a dog, and yes, my father brought the dog to the firehouse. But my father's dog walked on its hind legs, okay? And that was everywhere it went. It walked on its hind legs. It did not walk on four legs. The dog thought he was human.
It's a great picture.
Okay, so yes, he did have the dog in the firehouse, but the policy got set afterwards. And that got set because of something that happened with Commissioner Palmisi and the upstairs. And he came and he got that policy set, and that was the policy set. No dogs in the facility.
So what do you?
And I believe we should go back to no facilities, dogs in the facility, no pets in the facility, and no pets in the cars.
Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we go with no pets in the firehouse and no pets in the vehicle.
Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Got 1, 2. Dwight?
No.
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 Okay, actually, I should have asked for discussion. We don't have to discuss it. Why would we not want to have a policy of no pets in the vehicles and facilities when that is a fairly typical policy that most organizations may have?
If I may, on discussion, I think that we might want to break this into two issues. Personally, my belief is that pets in chief's vehicles is not acceptable. I don't agree that the pets need to be in the chief's vehicle. So I would vote in favor of that for a chief's vehicle. I don't think I would vote in favor of that for a blanket restriction on no pets in the firehouse, if we were to break it into two separate motions.
Any other discussion on this? I'm going to vote in favor of no pets in vehicles and in the facilities. So I believe that was, yeah, 3-2.
Right.
We'll need to write a policy on that. It should be short, sweet, to the point. And there's no reason to bring up the exception for a service dog, because a service dog is not a pet. It's clearly, this is an issue of privately owned pets in the facilities, and in the vehicles.
So we're voting not to approve a policy, but a concept.
Well, are we going to continue the discussion on it?
Oh, no, I did.
You had it, you had,
No, I voted no.
okay.
You broke the tie. You voted yes, but are you voting on a concept? Are you voting yes on a concept? Or are you voting on a policy that we've never seen? Just curious.
What are you proposing? Where are you going with your question?
It's pretty straightforward.
In other words, you've never seen a policy.
I've never,
Said no dogs.
I've never seen a policy that says no pets in the firehouse or vehicles or one or the other.
Why wouldn't an organization,
Because we've never passed one, or at least I've never seen one. I've looked through the binders a million times. I've looked on the website. I've looked in my own files. I've never seen a policy on this. So are we ruling by fiat or are we adopting a policy? Just need an answer to that.
pretty sure the vote was just 3-2.
3-2, that
I'd say
absent a policy, we're just saying no. This board is saying no. No exceptions, no nothing, no whatever, no. Was that the vote?
Restate the motion, please.
There was a motion for no pets in facilities
sorry, I
or
can't hear you.
vehicles.
I'm sorry.
No pets in facilities or vehicles.
And it passed 3-2.
It's not a formal policy. It was just on pets being allowed or disallowed.
Okay, well, somebody's gonna have to post that for the membership of the public so that they understand the rules.
On the agenda for new business, line A, we carved out some time tonight. There's just two discussions left here to discuss the project costs. I know that there are varying views, not necessarily disagreements. I think the board is, we tend to agree on most things here. But I wanted to set some time aside tonight to talk about the project costs. And can we start off with Commissioner Murphy on this one with respect to, and I'll just state this and then I'll be quiet, Brian. December 2021, this board recognized and accepted the recommendation of our architect. If we were to move forward with a referendum to get everything that we needed in general, and that would include the brand new firehouse and a complete renovation of the 1954 and 1979 buildings, it would be in and around $16,900,000. Now that has jumped up a tick because our treasurer Robin has indicated there's been a 4-point increase in bond rate. So having said that, and because of other pressures, inflation, cost of materials, cost of labor, interest rates as well, and skyrocketing fuel costs, these pressures will no doubt influence the price of this project. So having said that, I just want to update the residents who might be dialing in and watching us.
All right,
Thank you.
it's now to $18 million. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't see $18 million being passed in a referendum or anything. And I think what we really need, sit and think about, is what we really need. What we really need is the addition. Nothing, we don't need to do anything to these two buildings. We need the 3 bays. We need the addition. And we need to attach it to the 79 building. So there's access throughout the whole building. What we actually need is the addition, and we need it not now. We needed it yesterday.
Agreed.
Because we're already behind replacing one vehicle. We got another vehicle coming up that's gonna need to be replaced. We have things that are coming up that have to be done, and we have to have a place to put them. And that's, in my opinion, is if we want to go forward and get this to go and get it passed, we got to go for just the building itself, just the addition. Nothing but these two buildings. That's my opinion. I think that's what we need to do, but I know there are some out there that think we should do the whole building, the whole project. I was here the last time. And the last time it was at 16, and that included buying the property next door. That included tearing down the property next door. Well, we purchased it, we tore it down. Now we're just building the addition. My opinion is we should just build the addition, not touch these two buildings.
I'll just add something and then we'll pass it on to the other commissioners. I tend now I tend to agree with Brian Murphy on this one. No one could have anticipated the turn of events that happened, that started right about the end of January with the economy, the pressures, and then of course the effects of the war overseas. So having said that, I would share in your opinion at this point. Any other commissioner want to weigh in on this?
I would, I think it would be nice to do everything, but in view of the fact of the cost, certainly if it's a lower cost, there's more chances that it would pass. And keeping in mind that the last time the vote was 6-1 against it. So it's maybe we should then try and reduce the cost, and then maybe sometime in the future, and especially if we sell the Center Street building, we have funds from that to do work with the existing building.
We would. Robin, can you speak to that issue? Because we talked about it at office hours during the week, that excuse me, that was a separate issue. That was a separate issue we talked about.
No, so what are you talking about this?
Pardon me?
What financial issues did you discuss at office hours during the week?
Dwight,
Sure.
you're up.
I think I'm in favor of going ahead with the additional loan, outfitting it as best we can, but I don't know that at this time it makes sense to try and also renovate the 79 and the 54 buildings. So I'm with you and Commissioner Murphy on that.
Do we know how much less it would be instead of 16.9 or 17 plus? What we'd be looking at?
We would have to run the numbers again because that's a great question, by the way. The current number of 16.9 plus the quarter point tick up was based on conducting the total build out of the new building and the renovation of the 1954, 1979 building. And that would be, Chris has it right here. That was December 21st of last year. It took several months to complete that analysis. We're waiting on two key things. The asbestos abatement, as you remember, we had to do some testing to verify the scope of that work. And then they, of course, had to go to the estimating process. The estimating process is fairly rigorous. So we would have to go back to the architect now and say, we would like to functionally build the brand new building or just subtract the renovation. So I guess there's two ways to look at it, and then you just have to perhaps just do some adjustments with the estimating. And I think we can come up with that number. And I'll take a guess fairly short order. We can probably have the number by the June meeting. Yes, Chris.
Sort of, Ed, we're sort of comparing apples to oranges, because the last numbers we got in December of 2021 were based on a completely different design. It was created in October of 2021, whereas all the previous estimates had worked on a design that was developed between 2015 and 2016. They're really, and having said that, and having said they're not straight comparisons, they're really three estimates or projections that I've seen over the years. There's been the September 2016 projection. There's been the 2020 projection, and then the most recent one in 2021. The 2016 was a full renovation with an addition of both the old and the new spaces. If you parsed out the land acquisition, you're talking about $12.7 million. In 2020, what they had planned to do, and I wasn't here, but just from the records that I've seen, in 2020, what they planned to do is they planned to put on the addition to take care, as Brian says, and I think he's quite right, to at least put that footprint of the three new bays. So the firematic operations, the necessities were accounted for, particularly in separating the contaminants from the working floor, putting in a decontamination room, a training mezzanine, and a proper laundry. However, in 2020, as in all the plans I've seen, they've also built out the second floor. In 2020, they decided to finish the second floor on the addition, but not touch the 1970 building and this building here. And that brought the price down to $12.0 million. So a difference of about $654,000. I think Bob Mitchell was spot on in his original estimate in 2016, because as he projected going forward, he projected a 4% increase over the life. And when that new number came in 2020, if you take out what was not done here, it tracks within $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 or so. So he was pretty close. The asbestos issue, I think, is sort of a little bit of a red herring. The asbestos remediation in 2016 was approximately $50,000. In 2020, the projection went up to 125, so it's a $75,000 difference. So it's not the biggest number in this whole pot. I agree with Brian. I don't think you're going to pass a $17 million bond today. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think there's any way it's going to work. I think that, and I agree with Brian, I think that, I mean, the size of this thing, you're going from 13,000 square feet to 29,000 square feet. There's just no way around that if you're putting in these bays. If you're going to have drive-through bays, you're going to have room for larger pieces of apparatus. If you're going to be able to protect the firefighters from the contaminants that is now the greatest risk of health beyond cardio, that footprint is what that footprint is. If you put up the second floor and you don't finish it in accordance with the plans of 2020, what are you going to save? $100,000, maybe, because as Brian says, you're putting up walls, you're running some cables, you're gonna have to put in a mechanical operation, because someday you're gonna have to use that space. You don't want to waste it. To your point, however, what that would give us, that would give us the apparatus room, it would give us the firefighter space, the safety space that we need there. It would still give us, if we did the changeover from with the build out as designed in 2020, it would still give us the change out. It would give us the elevator. It would give us ADA compliance. It would give us the big room, a new big room. It would give us a commissioner space. It would double the size of the district and secretary's offices, so they could have a working space. It would also provide a security system. So to the questions that the CLC has been asking us about, is there an opportunity for public use of this new space? Yes, there would be, because we could secure it from the apparatus space. We could secure it from the working place of the department. What would the department be giving up over that October 2021 design that came up? Would they be giving up their bunk rooms, but they don't have now? They would be giving up the new fitness center, which they don't have now. However, with a new meeting room over an addition, we could move the fitness center from Center Street up to the big room here. They would be stuck with their same chief offices, so we could build that out, throw up some rooms in the meeting room and improve that space in our existing space. We could bring the hose reel, we could bring the antique up from Center Street here. In other words, to your point, yes, we would then have created enough space that we would no longer require Center Street for storage and for the use for which it's intended. But again, I think you're looking at apples and oranges. If you left, like I said, if you left the second floor on the addition, just where you'd have to run the pipes, you'd have to run the walls, you'd have to run the cables, and they would just be attached to nothing. But for $150,000 there, I mean, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, but I think you can get this $17,000 down to $12,000 pretty cheaply. According to my calculations, in our capital reserve funds, if you look at car, trucks, and buildings, we're looking at about $3.5 million. With the new facility, standalone infrastructure that doesn't have to tie into here, our maintenance and our wear and tear on this facility is going to go down, and our maintenance, wear and tear on Center Street will be gone. So with $3.5 million of that money, we would have reserves if we need to do something, if we feel we need to break through this wall. If we want to spend 2020, what is it today? Maybe it's gone up another $75,000. But if we had to pay $75,000 in asbestos remediation, we would have the money in our pocket to do it, and we could do it over time. We wouldn't have to do it overnight. I think the voting public has been foolish. I think that doing it all at once and doing it right the first time makes sense, because you have your contractors here, you have your materials here, you have your equipment here, you have your workers here, you have your tools here, and just, doing it piecemeal, bringing things in, drip, 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 is just going to get more expensive. But the voters have told us that that's what they want to do, and I think we should, we're probably in a position where we have to listen to them. And I can tell you, I have talked to nobody who is in favor of this project who thinks it will pass at $17 million.
Well, it seems like we're all on the same page here, seems like maybe that's what Brian described is what we should go with.
What I'm saying, I'm just saying is, I don't believe or see it passing. And like I said, what we need is what we need yesterday. We need it now. We need it next year, and we need to get it done. So as far as I'm concerned, we have to get the price down to where the taxpayers will go for it. And we can get started and start building.
Yeah, one other thing with the CLC committee, they could even promote the fact that we put the project down to make it more acceptable.
So what is the pleasure of this board? I don't disagree with Chris Weddle on this one.
You mean Brian working on this?
No, with you, actually. I just said, I don't disagree with you.
Plus you said more than you explained it a lot better than I did, but what I'm saying to you is, I think what we need to do is go back and get that price of just that facilities.
I think, can I just say this? I think we need to decide as the board in possible consultation with the chief's staff. We know we need this, correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely have to have that. This is what it's going to look like outside. It's already passed the architectural review board. We're within 1 week of getting everything, the site plan approved.
Right.
Everything here has to be done. It should have been done a long time ago. The question to the board, and as just articulated in a craftful way by Commissioner Weddle, we need to decide how much of this we want to build out. I'm in big favor of getting the bathrooms in and getting anything in there that we need to get in. And the reason why is it's going to be a lot cheaper to have it done when all the contractors are here. So I think that's the question that we have to explore. How much we want in there.
Everybody seen this?
What's the date on that one, Chris?
That is March 17th, 2020.
2020, March 17th?
I was not on the board. You were. You'd seen that.
This is, I suggested that. I suggested we just not do anything, just do that addition. That's what I suggested.
And that will open up the entire first floor here. New apparatus can move, new apparatus and existing apparatus can move into an addition. Whatever's up here, the utilities can move into the middle. We don't have a boat anymore, so this extra room, we can put another utility in there. And that would open up this stuff to bring Center Street up here. I wouldn't factor that into the cost projections, but it would be, there'd be a bidding war for it, I'm sure.
I see that.
You'll notice the first floor is identical, it hasn't changed in 6 years. It's only the second floor that keeps moving around. That's the second floor, but if you look at the first floor, next page,
First floor hasn't changed, right?
you get your bays.
Yes,
your
no,
separate
I get
turnover,
that,
You got
yeah.
your decon, you got your separate entrance, you got a vendor entrance, you got the mezzanine, you have training, you have bailout, you have extra janitorial
understand
space, you have your air pack facilities, you've got a workroom with a workbench. If you looked in the I walked in the mechanics room today. No one's doing any work in there. Can't move in there.
Oh, yeah, they put all those radios in.
Unbelievable.
I think the biggest point that we learned, thank you for that. I believe it was April 7th, working session.
Yes.
The architect perfectly articulated without any doubt. This is not a want or a wish. These are requirements. We have to build, we have to abate the risk, we have to provide for industry standards, we have to comply with OSHA requirement to reduce and mitigate risk for our employees. So we need to move forward. The question to the board is, because we're getting a little short on time, forgive me. How do we proceed this week? What are the questions to the architect?
In my opinion, the question to the architect is the new entranceway, the new lobby, the whole first floor, the second floor, the ADA compliance bathrooms, all that stuff and everything. What's it going to cost? We're leaving the big room open right now. I mean, so we can sit down and actually decide what we want to do with the big space.
Just asking to update the hard and soft costs on the 2020 plans. They're already there.
So
if you look at this building in the 1970s edition, that's just gray. Nothing
Yeah.
touches that. We can move pieces around the chessboard here. It's just next door. You know.
So
March 2020 plan.
yeah, so Chris wants to say current cost.
Update hard and soft costs on March 2020 plan.
But
I'm pretty sure we said March.
you record these meetings?
We do.
We do actually.
But I can give you my figures.
Okay. Am I hearing that the board would like to back out renovation of the 1954, 1979 buildings, and we would look at that in the future rather than now? Is that what I'm hearing?
I would, if it were me, I would not make a decision tonight. If it were me.
No, I'm trying to get a sense of what the discussion is, because it was on the agenda for discussion tonight. I'm trying to get through the discussion and just to have an idea so we can advance,
Well,
the discussion later.
I think there's not necessarily an agreement, but I think there's a conceptual embrace of the practical difficulties that we face. And so I think that it might make sense to have a conversation with the other stakeholders, including the chiefs and particularly the CLC, and say, hey, look, would this be a little more palatable? Is there, you see it, you see a clearer path this way? And if so, why?
And if we do eliminate what's there now, a lot of those questions will go away.
Well,
I think.
But we don't want a lot of questions. The questions are good. We like questions. We
Yes.
raise questions. We welcome questions. But the questions that I've seen, frankly, from my perspective, apart from the cost-effective advantage to having things done on site when everybody is here, other than that, the questions for me are getting harder to answer.
What are some, such as?
Well, in no specifics, but I think the CLC has asked some probing questions. And I think they're asking us to justify wants, not needs. And in light of the number in front of us, I think that's, I think they can be justified, but I do understand the concern that CLC may have in being able to successfully promote a project that they maybe don't and probably shouldn't be entirely 100% behind. So I think those are reasonable conversations that reasonable people can have. I don't think a decision has to be made today, but I think those conversations are important. That's just, me.
Do we have any questions for the, what was the question for the architect?
To update the hard and soft costs on the March 2020 plan,
March 17th.
March 7th.
Okay, so
Knock over a trash can to get that.
So Chris,
Yeah.
so if we're gonna update, that's for the new building only. And are we taking out the cost to renovate these two buildings as per the last projection?
That's the March 17th, 2020 plan. Does not touch the
Gotcha.
existing buildings.
Just want to clarify that. All right, can we move on to the last item for today? And we will cut it short. We've been here a long time and we do get tired after a while and then the meeting becomes less effective as the time goes on and we're tired and we'll have to get something to eat. So everyone should have received a package. It's the bid instructions for the possibility of hiring a public relations and communications contractor to assist us with essentially communications moving forward prior to the referendum. For the sake of the residents of the fire district, I'm just going to read through what we'd be looking for should the board decide to move forward on this. Newcastle Fire District number 1 is in need of a public relations and communication consultancy. The tasks would include, but they are not limited to, assistance with establishment, maintenance, and management of social media presence, assistance in completing our new website that will effectively communicate regular business of the fire district and support the project, organize all germane questions into frequently asked questions, document, develop plan and presentations for effective public engagements, design and distribute mailings, write and distribute press releases and manage media relations, and work with the fire district's ad hoc advisory community liaison committee as necessary, and to work with the fire commissioners, all district advisors, architect, engineer, designated members of the Chapel Fire Department and other stakeholders as required, develop and implement strategies to get a maximum vote by the residents of the fire district by providing factual information and other tasks and services as directed by the board in support of providing accurate information to the residents of the fire district prior to a referendum. I'm not going to make a motion on this. If the board wants to discuss this for a minute, I am in favor of hiring a communications consultant to help us with these items in areas that I just mentioned. and this is the entire package. I did speak with our attorney today. We are not obligated to do this because this is a professional service. However, he has recommended that we put this out to bid. Having said that, what's the pleasure of the board on this?
He suggested we put it out for bid, but.
We're not obligated or required to. We could literally interview a suitably qualified public relations and communications contractor or consultant and hire, because it's considered a professional service.
I think it's a good idea to have a bid so we can have transparency and everybody sees, you know, if there's other bidders out there, what they bring to the table in their bid.
Yeah, that's a very good point. However, yeah, I mean, it's a good point, and that's why it's not required, but it's suggested.
Yeah.
So what's the pleasure of the board on this? Because I believe that the board needs to move on this if we're going to, yes.
Just a question to the board. Did you want to stay locally with a professional service that knows the Westchester County in New York State? I know you've gotten recommendations from many people, but they might be on Long Island or they might be in New Jersey. Did you want to stay local?
I will read this. The public relations and communications consultancy must have specific, demonstrated, and documented successful regional and/or area experience within Westchester County, New York, in working with local government jurisdictions with respect to activities prior to a public vote. A firm with a strong record of positive outcomes is required and must be articulated in this RFP response.
It seems to me it doesn't hurt to put it out for bid. Of course, can't we, regardless of what the bids are, if we find that one particular public relations firm seems more likely to help us than another, then according to what Mike is telling us, we could choose that.
You're absolutely correct. And you are absolutely correct. And I'll just remind everyone that we would have the right to reject any and all bids and select any bid. And this issue of the lowest responsible bidder doesn't really come into play because it's a professional service. We can select the best bid to conduct the work. So, but again, I think our attorney, Michael Gorey from Hogan Rossi, made a good recommendation that we put this out to bid for the sake of transparency and you know, I will entertain a motion to move forward with this.
I'll make that motion to move forward to put this out for bid.
Do we
Public relations companies.
in accordance with the package that, yeah, and there's maybe some before I seek a second, there are some minor administrative changes that can be made to this. Any commissioner can review it. You got it at short notice today. However, everyone should have known this was coming. We've discussed it before. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion, any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
I just think of what happened with the last one we had, that's all.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Brian said.
Yeah, I would just,
I'm just thinking of what happened with us with the last burn.
that,
And I don't want to see us get burnt.
I would just like to remind everybody that discussing a previous contract such as that should be done in executive session.
I disagree.
Yes,
Can I ask a question just to know, what would the time delay be? How many days do we have to notice and?
A bid only has to be in the newspaper for 5 days, but I mean.
we would give
that's-
longer than
that's
that.
short. That's usually pretty short,
So at least 30 days you
Well,
would have to set aside.
not 30,
No,
usually 2.
yeah,
weeks-ish.
maybe 15 days, 2 weeks. The minimum is 5, which is hardly workable, right?
Mhm.
So, all right,
It's May. Right. Nothing's happening till September.
well, that's true, but a lot of work has to get done during the summer, and I can assure the members, or I can assure the residents of this fire district that we've been working very, very hard on this project. And just because the vote may be in the latter part of the year, it doesn't mean there is not a ton of work that needs to be done between now and then.
Agreed.
I'm not taking the summer off. I haven't taken the last 16 to 18 months off working on this project. And I'm not going to quit now. All right, so we have a motion. It's been seconded. We're waiting on Commissioner Murphy, but I'm gonna vote yes to go forward on this. That gives us 3 so far. Commissioner Chris went ahead and he abstained.
Yes.
That's 4, and 1. Yeah, if I could just ask all of the board members to review this document. If you have any administrative changes or any technical changes or any changes that will improve it, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll assume that the board is permitting myself and the secretary to get this out, and we'll figure out perhaps to get a response by the June meeting. Think we can do that? I think we can too. Any objection to that line of scheduling?
No,
And if we're not happy with it, then we can reject everything and try again, or reject everything and select who we want. Again, this is professional service. We do not have to go out to bid. However, I think it's the right thing to do, particularly considering our attorney advised us or recommended that we do that. Having said that, there are no visitors here. This meeting was extremely long. I'll apologize only a little bit for that. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, June 16th at 7 p.m., preceded by a work session at 6:30. Please email any questions and concerns for the board's consideration to the following email address, and I'll spell it phonetically. Bravo Oscar Foxtrot Charlie at November Charlie Foxtrot Delta #1.org. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
aye. Have a good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you.